Good morning and welcome to the Stahls TV Morning Show. It's a beautiful day here in southwestern Pennsylvania. It's raining cats and dogs.
I was going to say, where are you coming from?
It's beautiful in here.
It's good
and
here.
Welcome to the Stahls TV Morning Show. I'm Josh. I'll be one of your hosts along with Bob.
Great to be here.
And you were off all last week when it was a beautiful week here.
I was off and it was wonderful.
And what'd you do? Anything exciting?
If you call working on your home, painting and repairing and all that type of thing exciting, then yes.
All right. Well, congratulations on all of that. Hopefully all of your plans came to fruition. Last week, I was out a little bit as well. Actually had traveled to a customer shop in the Rochester, New York area on Thursday and a little bit of Friday. And this one was a fun visit because they had recently invested in 2 dual air fusions, a vinyl cutter system, and basically were in the process of moving over to heat-applied numbering and lettering instead of screen printing numbering. Mm-hmm. They had I want to say like 4 or 5 numbering machines, screen printing numbering machines out on the floor, and they were excited to be moving their business over to heat printing for personalization.
Why did they make the move?
A couple key reasons. One of the big things that the production manager cited was really learning curve and sort of onboarding. Mm-hmm. So the idea with the screen printing numbering machines, with the technical knowledge, it was taking almost a month to get somebody to operator proficiency, to be out on the floor and functional. And with heat printing, they see that training time being about a day, day and a half.
Nice.
To get them up to speed.
And a lot less mess, I think.
Yeah, a lot. And funny enough, pretty big company, but they had never offered names with their numbers because of the limitations of screen printing.
Got it.
So the idea that now they can do names and numbers seems pretty simple, but big win for them in launching this program. And so one of the things that I love about working at Stahls is really the ability to go out and visit different types of shops, different types of customers. In today's episode, we are going to look back at a Stahls TV blueprint that was recently launched, where you and I visited a company by the name of CapSwag,
right,
out in New Jersey. And then we're also going to talk a bit about a piece of market insights that were published in Hot Graphics magazine, which is a part of Printware, which will help us sort of peer into shops around the country and sort of how they're doing with heat printing, where they're growing from, what they're doing well, and what markets they're serving. Our goal here at the Stahls TV office is to really inspire you and help you to grow your business through inspirational projects and also training. And by looking at studies like this and sharing these insights, we think you can pick up some things to grow your business. As always, we're broadcasting live on the Stahls TV Morning Show. So if you have questions, go ahead and type those in, whether that's through the GoToWebinar client or here on Facebook Live, and we'll stop several times to answer questions. We always start with the beginning, and
it's a good place to start.
Look of the week.
Look of the week.
Talk to us about this week's Look of the Week, Bob.
Look of the week. I see Wildcats and a T. I'm not sure what the T's about, but I'm sure it has something to do with the actual school name. However, this looks like, we don't have a whole lot of information, but it seems very obvious that it's some sort of a banner or flag that's a spirit type of banner being held up in the stands or posted on the wall of the auditorium. Looks like they've used a heat transfer vinyl. I would assume something with a sticky back, hot peel, so they could do multiple hits. It's a great look. It looks like because it's like 24 inches by 5 feet, my estimation, they had to hit it multiple times. So it had to be something that was very forgiving and allow you to hit it as many times as you needed to without any problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons this look was selected is because it's so different. The oversized application, I've seen oversized applications on like table throws and tent tops and some different things, but the idea of just sort of an indoor flag, whether this is being held up by multiple people in the stands or being held inside of a gymnasium, this is a pretty cool application, and it does leverage the heat press and breaking that up and hitting and sort of reheating sort of blocks of the application. You don't need to have 4 foot by 6 foot heat press to do this. You can do this on a 16 by 20 by breaking it up into pieces. Mm-hmm. So really interesting application there. The look of the week, if you want to submit that to us, there's a few different ways to do that. You can email tv@stahls.com. You can submit them to the Stahls TV Show and Tell page, which is something that happens every Saturday on our Facebook page. And then last but not least, you can tag us on Instagram @Stahls TV to submit for Look of the Week, and you get the accolades and the kudos of being featured, and a big thank you for submitting for Look of the Week. There were lots of cool looks this week, so it was a tough decision. Next, let's talk about the insights, specifically the Hot Graphics report. Now, if you're interested in getting this full report, you can go to Printwear Magazine's website, which is printwearmag.com. You can get the digital edition of this month's publication if you're not subscribed, and this is within that publication. And so within the Hot Graphics report, which is an annual publication that's a supplement to Printwear Magazine, in this edition, they sort of surveyed roughly about 400 different subscribers to their magazine, their suite of magazines, specifically to understand who the heat printer is and what markets they're reaching. Out of all the respondents, we have 83% of the people that responded to this that are offering some form of heat printing in their business, with 22% saying heat printing is the primary decoration method in the business. So that's just sort of guides the overall audience that we're taking a look into. I see you peeking here, but what would you guess would be the most popular decoration method outside of heat printing that this group was executing? And actually, if you guys want to type in online, if you have some guesses on what the most popular decoration method is from this group outside of heat printing, what's your guess?
Well, there's always two that loom large on the high, but typically embroidery is number one.
Yeah, and in this case, if you guessed it, embroidery is number one. 57% of the respondents said that they used embroidery as a decoration technique. And then shortly they're followed by screen printing at 55%, which those were the only two decoration techniques that exceeded sort of 50% of the respondents. So why heat printing for an embroiderer, first off?
Well, yeah, embroidery is typically, has traditionally been known as the high end, and for a good reason, a high end type of decoration, a lot of corporate wear, things like that. So when it gets into some of the larger designs, it gets a little costly. It's on the machine for quite a while. You got a lot of stitches in there, and there's a lot of risk involved with something being on the machine that long. So it gives a decorator a chance to offer a price point. I can do this a lot cheaper, more affordably, still get the same type of look, your same colors, the same size and everything, and just the same durability, but we can offer a much cheaper way to go.
Okay, good. And then how about for a screen printer? 55% offered screen printing as well. So why would they have a heat press?
Well, it's all about the number of designs that they're going to be doing, the same design over and over. As we know, when you're screen printing, there's a lot of setup. There's screens that have to be burnt, and artwork, art separated, all those type of things. There's a lot of cost on the front end with screen printing. So that cost has to be amortized over the number of garments that you're doing. So if you've got a short run application, or an order for 20, 24, 10, 5, it can be cost prohibitive. It just doesn't make sense. It allows you to do the shorter runs, personalization.
Okay. If I want to because we have a lot of our viewers that probably have maybe all three of these decoration methods already, or maybe they have one and they're looking to expand. The majority of our viewers are heat printers, so most of them already have heat presses. If I have a heat press today and I'm looking to make a jump into a new technology to add to my heat printing business, what would be your recommendation?
Beyond heat printing?
Yeah, beyond heat printing.
Wow, because heat printing actually covers a pretty broad category.
We didn't practice this question, by the way.
Yeah, it's you put me on the spot there. My personal, I always want to go to like print and cut, because that's what I know and what I think is the most versatile. Even though that portion is heat printing.
Well, explain print and cut a little bit.
Well, print and cut is, instead of, if you're doing multiple colors with vinyl only, heat transfer vinyl only, you have to duplicate your efforts when you're putting multiple colors and or triplicating them. At some point, again, becomes very heavy, and two, you're adding a lot more cost because you're tripling all of your costs. So with print and cut, you're starting with just a single layer of white material, and you're printing all the detail, all the colors there, and then cutting around it. So that's going to allow me to do multiple colors very affordably in a single layer, and the cost is the same whether you're doing 2 or 200. So there's no real savings for volume, but there's definitely no penalty for doing short runs.
So print cut, if I'm understanding you correctly, grows the heat printing business, but there's more to it, which makes it an acceptable answer for me.
Right.
And so explain what's more to print cut that complements the heat printing side.
Right. The versatility of the print cut process is huge, because not only are you able to apply to any fabric, any number of colors on any type of apparel, but you also can now add decals and signs and banners and wall graphics and view-through vinyl. The list just keeps going. It's almost nothing that you can't apply full color to.
Okay, so same printer, same inks, basically swap out the media and select the profile in the software, and you're taking this technology expansion that grows the heat printing business and opens you up. So I think that's a good answer. And actually, if we look further into this survey and look at market segments, this sort of really would help you define what's next for your business, is defining what markets you want to reach and what decoration techniques they value. And so out of these respondents, 67% identify athletic teams, associations sort of as a core business for heat transfer for what they're serving. 63% are local businesses, just selling to businesses in the community. 61% are clubs or organizations, hobbies, etc. And 42% educational institutions, 33% corporate gifts. So a lot of, you can go on and on about the markets for heat printing, but athletic teams, clubs, definitely at the top of the list.
Absolutely. It almost always is. When you look at that, athletics is never going to go away. It's always very, very popular when it comes to heat printing.
Okay, I'll let you read the rest of this. There's quite a bit of insight into this report. I'd recommend you just go download it for yourself, subscribe to the publication. It's free if you're not already. Printwear Magazine's a great one. There's another publication, Impressions Magazine, that is equally good that I subscribe to as well. Those are really good to stay connected on a month-to-month basis into what's happening in the world of apparel decoration. Now, when we talk about markets and growing into markets, something we try to do here at Stahls TV is basically to not only help you learn how to heat print, but help you understand what markets that you can be heat printing for beyond this list of 5 markets. There's a lot more markets to grow. And so in order to help better with that, this year we've launched a new program called the Project Press It subscription box. Basically, for around $25 a month, you get a box to your doorstep with a training card that walks you through an application process for a garment and a sales guide that teaches you about a market that you can reach. And so for today's edition of Make It Monday, we're going to turn it over to Courtney K to go through last month's Project Press It subscription box.
Thanks, Josh. So today's Make It Monday, we're going to share the May box. So those of you that subscribe to the Project Press It box, you received this within the last week, but we wanted to share it with everybody so you can kind of see the looks that were created with the Project Press It box. So this month we decided to focus a little bit on something that's really popular for the summer season, and that is festivals. It's that time of year we're starting to see a lot of music festivals, food festivals, church festivals, a lot of opportunity within a local and a regional community to sell product to. And so we're going to do that with a tank top today from Sanmar. I'm just going to slide my box over here to the side so we can show you what's inside the box. We started with a tank top that is fashionable from Sanmar. It just has a nice, breathable, lightweight feel, which makes it perfect for that summer market. I'll go ahead and load that onto the heat press here as we grab the other component. So I'm just loading it on by threading it on the Fusion. One thing you'll notice, this is a razorback tank, so being able to thread it in this way will help to get rid of any print through that could happen on the transfer. So I'm getting still a nice flat print surface. With a screen printed transfer like this, I definitely want to make sure I'm not getting any kind of inaccurate pressure from that back razorback. Now inside the box, transfers that are included that are perfect for the festival market are going to be 2 different options. So we started with a screen printed transfer. And a screen printed transfer is going to have a few different options on here for you to personalize the shirt the way that you'd like. We chose a screen printed transfer simply because it's one of the best types of decoration for this type of market. So if I'm looking for being able to add different decoration for large groups and I want to be able to do it fast and easy, then the goof proof transfer will allow me to do that. Just going to go ahead and trim off these extra designs here. If you've tuned in a lot to the morning show, we talk a lot about gang sheets that are available from Transfer Express, which is where the transfer's from. And one thing about the gang sheets is I can add additional artwork and add more placements on other items or on additional areas of my design. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this design over. Line it up on my shirt here. Now I want to be careful to go about an inch below the collar, and that is where the transfer is. So I want to make sure my top of my transfer sheet is up with the top of the collar on the shirt there. I'll pull that collar off just a little bit so I don't get too much pressure issues. And then I'll press for the recommended application. So this transfer is goof proof. It normally applies at 365 for only 4 seconds, so it's a really fast application when you're printing a lot for a festival or event. I have the heat press down at 340 for 10 seconds just to get an additional application. This way I'll be able to get that foil print on the back with the additional transfers. So we've got our nice front print here on the front of the shirt. We're going to go ahead and spin the shirt around, and then I'll print the back with an additional placement. And so if you're personalizing this item, you have two options. I could take that screen printed transfer that I cut off and I could put a placement here on the yoke of the shirt or maybe on the lower back, or take the additional transfers in the box, which is going to be a adhesive transfer, and place that down on the yoke as well. So I can get a little bit creative with where I'm placing these designs on the shirt. So I can go here within the middle of the yoke or go down a little bit down below on the transfer. I'm going to put that down below for something creative. Cover this up with a cover sheet. Now if you're familiar with CAD Cut Adhesive, if I was printing this as a print run, I would print all of my shirts at 365 or 340 degrees and then run my adhesive transfers at 300 degrees for their application. Also, the adhesive applies at a light pressure, so you'll notice I just adjusted the top of my pressure there to be able to get more of a light pressure since I was at a firm pressure with the transfer. I'll start with a 5-second application for the adhesive. Peel back that adhesive carrier to expose it, and then I'm going to inlay my foil. And in the Project Press It box this month, we did include 2 colors of foil, so you can decide how you want to personalize your shirt. I can make a solid print with one of these colors. I could do half and half and make kind of a split print, or I could get creative and even do a distressed print if I wanted to crinkle the foil up. I'm going to do a split print here just to show you 2 different colors, 2 different design ideas. So a lot of different things you can do with the heat transfer foil, getting really creative with pieces. We've seen some of it here on the Look of the Week. So the foil applies at 10 seconds at a firm pressure. I'm going to just adjust that pressure back so I'm able to really drive that adhesive or that foil down onto the adhesive and get a good coverage. Foil is a cold peel, so I'll give it a few seconds to cool down. Looks like it slid a little with my cover sheet. It's always good to check that. One other thing to note, I think Josh had mentioned it, but all the Project Press It boxes do come with a guide on the inside, so we'll look at that while that foil's cooling down. It includes a step-by-step guide to teach you how to print that on the back of your own shirt, and then also shares some insight into selling into this market. And so one thing about selling into festivals that's really big that I've noticed is being able to really understand your demographic and who you're selling to. So knowing what you're going to be printing and who you're going to be selling to. A trendy tank top like this will work well for a music festival, but may not work well for maybe something like a food festival or an Italian festival or something like that may want more of just a standard basic t-shirt. So really understanding our demographics there. I'm going to peel off the foil to create my transfer design there on the back, and then we have our completed shirt front and back printed. So a lot of options here with personalizing the shirt for the Project Press It box this month. If you're looking to get into festivals, really look in your local area through a search engine. See if there's food festivals, music festivals, what's going on in your area that you can start to sell to. Reach out to them and see if they have vendor space available, if you can put up a booth, and decide what works best for you and for the festival. You can sell pre-printed apparel like this. Either way, the screen printed transfers work well because they're very fast and easy. Or you can print them on site at the event and be able just to take a heat press, some blank garments, and transfers. Both work well. It just depends on what you have space for and what the festival will allow for as well. So great options for selling into festivals this year. if you haven't subscribed to the Project Press It box, every month it's a new market, a new person you can sell to, and a new way for us to teach you how to do that and show you some trendy garments and designs as well. So I encourage you to subscribe over at StahlsTV.com. But that's it for Make It Monday. I'll head back over to Josh and Bob.
Does Courtney ever run out of words to say?
I don't think so. It's perpetual words.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a lot of advice, leverages every second of that sort of segment to give you content and really train you on the application. And so you can see a couple different tank tops behind us. So that same two-color design interpreted on the white one, which she pressed, and then also on the navy blue one. I got my directions mixed up when I'm looking at the monitor in front of me. So anyways, pretty cool thing. Something I do want to mention on the Project Press It subscription box is Sanmar has been a great partner, and they provide the garments that are included in the box. And so they've really helped us to kick off this program at as low of cost as possible. But if you've been sort of on the fence on whether or not you should subscribe, I'm telling you, subscribe soon, because that Project Press It box will have a slight price increase. But if you get in under the current subscription, you'll be able to maintain your price throughout. And very few people out of the hundreds that have subscribed, I'm talking less than a handful, less than 5, have actually canceled on the box. So people are seeing value in what's showing up and being able to use it. All right. There are some questions coming in. We're going to run a little bit over on this morning show, but I know you guys don't mind. It's just more advice because we haven't even got to our primary topic yet. But Taylor asks a question, Bob, that I think is a valid one. The full color prints seem to feel cheap on apparel, speaking of the print cut graphics. Mm-hmm. Any recommendation on different material to not feel as cheap or not feel that way?
Yeah, it's all about the type of material that you're using, and there are some that will feel like a decal and feel like it's going to peel off because it feels like a heavy vinyl. Search around, find your best material that's going to work best for the fabric that you're using. There are materials out there. When it comes to our line of tech materials, they're very, very soft hand, very, very thin, very stretchable, so they kind of are pliable with the fabric. One thing that that can really, really help is have a lot more open cavities. And one big blotch of vinyl, yeah, it's still, I don't care how good your material is, it's going to feel heavier and stiffer like it's a decal if you've got just one big chunk of material on there. So taking care to create your artwork so you're cutting out some of the interior cavities so you feel some fabric within there, huge difference. It changes night and day from the same size graphic with the same amount of material, but feels so much better. Okay,
yeah, excellent tips. On print cut, left chest, small graphics always tend to feel great. You put a big blob on a shirt, it's going to feel like a big blob on the shirt. But the point on the design is having open space and cavities so you get some garment show through and some breathability. And the same thing's true with DTG, honestly. If you print down white ink and put down something on top of it and a big chunk on the shirt, it's going to feel
screen print's
heavier.
The same.
Yeah, it's any technology. So it's all about the design. But making sure you take into account, you want to keep it easy to weed. Any additional questions coming in on the GoToWebinar client?
Yes, we have a few people asking about the style number of that tank top.
So we're going to put Courtney on that. She's going to check out the style number to be reported here in a moment. Any other questions while we're getting that?
DT265.
It's DT265. D as in dog, T as in Tom, 265 from Sanmar.
And somebody wanted to know if they just started getting the Project Press It box, and they wanted to know if there's any way that they can order the ones that they missed.
Yeah, so unfortunately, at this time, we don't have the ability to sort of retro order the boxes because we just get the quantity of garments for the active subscribers from Sanmar and the quantity of transfers. I guess there's potential in the future. We may do archive boxes, but at this point, unfortunately, you just get the month's box forward that you subscribe to.
But the best is yet to come.
We do believe that. We try to put more value and something more impressive in every box. Okay, so I think we're good on questions. Keep them coming in. If I missed yours on Facebook Live, we'll check back here in a moment. Let's talk about this blueprint episode that recently published. For those of you that are interested, you can find this on StahlsTV.com as well, or on our YouTube channel, and watch the full Stahls TV blueprint. There's now 3 episodes, 2 different shop visits. Capswag, you accompanied me. Tell me a little bit about what impressed you most about this business.
Well, it's a retail business, very licensed business, and they're primarily, obviously, caps, but they're doing a lot more than just caps. But I was really impressed with their desire, their passion to grow their business, not just their business for growing their business sake, but to service the community and to really take their decoration to the next level. What else can they do? And that's really key for any business. What more can I sell to my existing customer base?
Yeah, they found a way to really take what they offer with licensed apparel and up that through personalization. So instead of just selling a Philadelphia Eagles hat, I think the example Muhammad gave us was being able to sell that Eagles hat with some embroidered or heat printed personalization on the side for a plumbing company. So instead of just selling one, now they're selling a dozen or whatever it is to the small group that was one of the top markets cited on our report here. And so when we walked in there, one of the goals of the visit, at least from their position, was they wanted to become operational and really proficient with their new vinyl cutter investment. That was the reason for them having us in. And he was excited about, the Stahls TV experience and publishing this for other people to learn. You walked up to the vinyl cutter. You came in as a vinyl cutter expert. What's some of the first things that you saw?
Well, as much as they're working on it with not a whole lot of, I would say, front end help from the very, very beginning, because they just kind of jumped into it without really investigating all the training that could be there. So the thing that I saw right away with the issues that they were having was all about the blade. Their blade depth was just too much, and we've got a segment that does talk about the pros and cons and why you set the blade properly, but that was probably the key element that just needed to be changed. A simple fix of there made everything so much better for them.
Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to share this small section from the actual episode in the actual visit where we dial in on blade depth.
The most important part of this cutter is the blade of the vinyl cutting, the drag knife technology. So I'm going to open this up and pull out the blade holder. And when you push it up, you can see that there's a blade in there. This has got a 45-degree blade in it. The trick is that probably the most common mistake that people do is they think to cut better, I need more blade. Not the case at all. We only want this very tip of the blade to stick out. We're only sticking out as far as the thickness of the material that we're cutting. We don't want to be able to cut through the carrier, because all we're doing is cutting through the HTV itself, leaving that polyester carrier intact. So we're going to kind of maybe scratch against that. So you almost shouldn't be able to see it. It's like a credit card or half a credit card sticking out, and that's all you're going to need. Only time I would advance it out more if I was doing something thicker like flock or tackle twill.
Can we see that?
Sure.
Is it right there? You can cut tackle twill on this?
You can.
Wow.
Yeah, servo motor gives you that kind of beef that you need. It's a very consistent. It's got the guts that you need, and a lot of downforce on this too. It's something else that they improved. Even in the older model, we were cutting tackle twill very nicely. Now I would recommend a carbide blade, a more longer lasting blade, or a 60-degree maybe, just to make it a little more durable, because twill is a little more.
Was it too high or too low before?
There was too much blade out from when I came here.
Okay.
But right now, you want to almost be able to feel
We
it.
did one once, and it was very hard to cut it because the vinyl was like not correct cut. That's why we make it higher.
We'll take a look at it here. Now, the other thing is, if you cut too deeply and cut through everything, so you want to be careful. There's this cutting strip here, this vinyl strip here. It's very hard impact plastic here. That's what's giving you the pressure to cut against this. So if we cut too deeply, we can actually start putting scores in that, and that eventually is going to give you a problem, because you're going to have places where your vinyl doesn't weed out nicely because it lost its resistance right there. So therefore, there's no pressure in that particular area, and you'll have little skips. So we'll put this back in. Pretty comfortable with that. Once the blade holder is back in where it belongs, we're still not ready to go, because we have no idea how much pressure or how much force we've got going on here. Now, the best way to test that is a simple test cut that's already on the machine. We just hold the test button down. But I'm going to check it first and kind of get a range, because we have a pretty good idea with a fresh blade how deeply this should cut. Sure. I'm going to say somewhere around 70 grams, 60, 70 grams of force. So I'm just going to hold the force button down. You're at 50. It may, with a brand new blade, that might be okay. I'm going to go ahead and bump it up. Now with this machine, anytime you get into a field, to activate it, you're always going to hit the right arrow. And that gives you the indication on the side when you see the little arrows on the side.
So real quick, just to interrupt you, Bob.
you're beefing up the amount of force.
Right. If you are cutting and you don't have a good clean cut, it's kind of like a steak knife. As it starts to go dull, I'm not going to throw it away. I'm just going to push a little harder to get through that.
I understand.
That fillet.
I understand.
That I'm so excited.
You gotta
about
give it.
the
You gotta
blade.
give it more.
A little bit of force. So anytime we need to add anything, we're not going to add blade. We're just going to give a little more force.
I got it.
So for those listening on the podcast and not necessarily seeing the visual in the graph and watching, I mean, basically we're talking just the tip of the blade.
Absolutely. That's what makes the difference. A lot of people look at that and think, you know, if this is good, then more. If it's not cutting, I should put more blade. Absolutely the wrong way to go.
And of course, you had to use a food analogy, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Always.
Cutting the fillet, increasing the pressure. Yeah. So if you start to bump that downforce, it's time to replace the blade. You need to start thinking about that. You can extend the life a little bit, but not a lot. So we continued and sort of looked at some of their challenges with cutting graphics. Dialed in that blade appropriately for what they were doing, actually had them put their hands on the machine and start utilizing it. And then really the biggest challenge outside of operating the cutter is understanding what material to use for what. And so we spent some time together sort of walking through those different materials. Now I do want to show you that piece of footage where we go through that exercise and actually have them put their hands on the press and press their first jersey. But before we do that, I know a question came in through GoToWebinar is how do we select where we're going to visit for the next blueprint? And I would say it's as much about just the customer expressing an interest and us just confirming that that type of shop would benefit sort of what we think is the rest of the viewers. But if you're interested in being perhaps featured on the Stahls TV Blueprint in the future, it helps if you're somewhere near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or near a trade show that we're traveling to. But we certainly are always looking for shops. We're currently talking to a few that we may be doing the next episode on. But if you want to be featured, just email us at tv@stahls.com. And let us know a little bit about your shop, why you think you'd be a good fit for the Stahls TV Blueprint, and who knows, maybe we'll be in your shop next. Okay, so let's share the footage where we actually go through material selection with them. This is just a few minutes of footage, and then we'll wrap the show up after that.
Oh, good.
So from a vinyl standpoint, those are sort of the looks and styles. There's a lot of extra stuff we can go through in a bit. But I think, you know, maybe diving in on some of your specific vinyl projects to make sure we sort of button up that piece of it.
Yeah, I'd like to do some jerseys. I got some sample pieces right there.
All right, so this is the first sample you want to try, the jersey?
Yeah, let's give that a shot.
Okay, so first thing we start with the tag.
Right.
100% polyester.
Sure.
Okay, this is a Sport Tech jersey, pretty standard application. When I'm choosing a vinyl, there's a lot of materials that will work on this. It's black polyester. Anytime I see polyester in a dark color, I start to think that could potentially bleed. Okay, so I want to pick that material that's bleed safe. You remember what that one is?
Well, it's a thicker material.
Yeah, so the thermofilm is the thicker material that's going to be bleed resistant. So that's our #1 material for sports jersey. I'm going to start with that. Let me grab a few sample pieces so we can pick a color to work with. I've already set the press up, so every vinyl comes with its own recipe for time, temperature, and pressure. You can download that off the website. When you order a roll, it comes printed inside of the roll on a application instruction. All right, so now we're ready to position our name and number on the back.
Anytime you're receiving a material, the next question should be, what's the recipe?
Right.
Time, temperature, heat.
That's why you want to get down to as few materials as possible, and then you can have a printout create a book of your recipes.
Right.
Well, both jerseys are great because you've got that seam there to look at to make sure you're straight.
Before you put the sticker. No, check, no. You see here?
Yeah, just you can kind of hold out the sleeves.
You've got about 2 inches on this side to the collar seam or the sleeve seam.
So that's kind of what I feel for when I load it on the side of the machine.
Now will this stick right away until?
It'll hold in place. It's
It'll
not
hold,
going.
okay.
Yeah, but it's only the stickiness of the carry that's holding it. It's not going to stick to the lettering.
That's good.
You're good. Too much pressure. You had it 30 seconds ago.
Maybe-
We're about to do the number while we're here.
Get him, hit them both in one
He's a
shot.
graphic designer.
Yeah.
He wants to get it right.
You want to center that one, but it's just a number 1. There you go. And I like to keep, I'd raise it up just a little bit. I like to keep about 2 inches down from the seam, or an inch at the minimum.
Long term, if you end up doing a lot of application at the heat press with vinyl, you see how the layout's pretty manual.
Sure.
You may want to consider a laser alignment system to sit beside the press. It can shoot line lasers on, so you
Yeah.
shoot yourself a centering line down the machine.
Does that? I've seen those before. Do they work really well?
They do.
It work, like on that number 1, it'd be easy. I'd have a centering line, so I just center the number 1 now on a line laser instead of having to look at my tag and the backbone of my press.
The nice thing is there's 4 lasers to work with, so I
Sure.
could have one across
Now, when
the
you press
name,
this,
I
how
could
long
have one
should
at
you
the top of the
actually
number, and I could
do this
have
because-
like
You
a
should do it,
space
it'll be 8
between the
seconds.
2 numbers, so
Yeah.
I've got them all just laid down, boom, boom, boom.
Sure.
Thermofilm, which is the product we're working with, is a hot peel. So you can peel the backing immediately after it's been applied.
The time to press that is not very long.
This was 6
Yeah.
to 8 seconds.
Now, when you peel it away, there's no,
There's no
there shouldn't be any
residue.
residue or anything.
Nope, it's done. Yeah.
You know why the custom apparel market is such a great market? Because you can be involved in the industry and sell all these products, but still get excited about your own stuff,
Yeah.
right? That's. I think that's the magic, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So we went on, that was a successful first application with thermofilm on a jersey, personalization on demand, which we've been talking about a lot today. We went on to help David customize the front of that jersey, also even switching out the platens and printing the sleeve prints to help him maximize the investment in the Hotronics autoclam with the interchangeable platens. Explain just a little bit, we selected thermofilm, we mentioned, to be dye inhibiting in that case because we were doing a light gray film on a black jersey. And so they weren't really worried about how soft it felt. It was more about how it was going to stay true to color and be highly durable. So you can watch that whole series, and I'd encourage you watch all episodes of the Blueprint. You'll get a lot of practical advice, in-shop advice. And if you go to stahlstv.com, search on keyword Blueprint, you'll come up with all of those videos. Do we have any other questions before we conclude today's episode? I think one I'm seeing here on Facebook Live from Dan is how much is the Project Press It box? The Project Press It box, if you commit for the year, it ends up being $19.99 a month. That signs you up for all 12 months from the time you subscribe to full 12 months. If you go on a month-to-month right now, it's $24.99 a month as of the airing of this episode, and basically it just rebills you every month until you cancel. So you have the option to cancel if you want. Otherwise, we'll just keep sending them to you and billing you $24.99 every month. You subscribe on Stahls TV. There's in the top navigation, if you click on, I believe it's resources, there's a Project Press It section. And Carol, we're glad you love your box. We enjoy making them and certainly hearing all the positive encouragement and feedback. That will wrap up today's Stahls TV Morning Show. I know we'll be back at you next week. We appreciate you coming on with us, Bob. I know we get you about once every 4 to 6 weeks, roughly.
I had the time of my life.
All right, good. I'm glad you did. Thanks all for joining us. If you still have questions, feel free to type those in to our feed, our recording on Facebook, and we'll make sure we monitor those and respond with written responses. Thanks for watching Stahls TV.